Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The conference opening address will begin in 5 minutes. At this time, please move to your seats and help us with a timely start to the conference. If you are unable to find a seat as the doors close, please move to one of the overflow rooms in the Riverwalk hallway, where this morning's program will be presented via video link. Please see members of staff at the doors if you need assistance. Please silence your electronic devices, but keep them on so you can text or email your questions for our guest speakers to askmetna@gmail.com. For attendees staying in official TechNet Augusta hotels, please note that we are offering complimentary shuttle bus service for the conference. Shuttles will run but 2 continuous loops between the convention center and conference hotels. For information, full information is available in the conference app. As a reminder, this is a commercial open forum and classified discussions are not permitted. Remember your operational security directions. OPSEC is everyone's job. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, look how cute they are in their Ike jackets.
I should have brought my fan. I saw it in the car and I was like, I should bring it, but I didn't.
That guy over there in the plaid shirt, he comes to the donut shop. I mean, I've seen a lot of people that come to the donut shop.
Which one? The one standing?
Yeah, the plaid guy, not the bald guy, the other guy. Okay, I don't take good pictures.
I didn't put mascara on. I'll fix it when I get to the bathroom again.
Why did I just learn today? For some reason
I
in my
forgot to put
head.
mascara on.
Oh, okay, you're fine.
Hello. For some reason,
Right there.
What? Right there. So we go that way.
Yes.
for some reason, like I just didn't think that like military uniforms would have like zippers for men to pee out.
And buttons. Depends on the uniform.
Yes.
No, like
Yeah, there's always buttons. It's a regular pants.
oh, see, for some reason I thought they were just like pull up like
No.
something like.
Trying to look like business. You look business.
You always.
I didn't
like,
put any earrings on because I didn't have any.
Alright, so when we go up there, we'll just.
Do
look
you
at
have
each
your
other.
phone?
Is your thingy supposed to be folded?
No.
So we'll just look at each other and we'll.
That is too high.
So I found out. I was like, who's this guy sitting next to me? I don't want to pick up, the wrong conversations or anything, right? Good morning. Feel very nice.
So on.
As a reminder, if you're unable to find a seat as the doors close, please move to one of the overflow rooms in the Riverwalk hallway, where this morning's program will be presented via video link. Please see members of staff at the doors if you need assistance. Starting with. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to TechNet Augusta. Before beginning this morning's program, we have a few administrative announcements. Questions in the sessions here in the Oglethorpe Ballroom will be taken electronically. You can email or text your questions to askmetna@gmail.com. Questions in the track and theater sessions will be taken from audience microphones. We would like to thank Northrop Grumman for providing Wi-Fi for our participants this week. The SSID Defining Possible is printed in the show guide and on the slides on the screen. Please visit Northrop Grumman this week in the Hamilton A meeting room just outside the ballroom to get the password. Signal, FCA's international official media, is providing daily news coverage of TechNet Augusta. Go to www.afcea.org/signal for this reporting, as well as a lot of other valuable content. Additionally, recordings and presentations from the week sessions that are authorized for release will be available post-event on the FCA website. FCA is pleased to offer 30 sessions this week that are approved for continuing education, and we encourage everyone to attend them. Please note that FCA members may receive attendance documentation for CompTIA continuing education units, GIAC continuing professional education credits, CERT Nexus, CyberSec First Responder continuing education credits, and or acquisition training requirements by attending and getting their event badge scanned at the close of each qualified session. If you are not a member, stop by the FCA booth number 123 to sign up today. For those of you who aren't current members, a special on-site membership rate is available for new members. FCA would also like to thank our preferred providers, American Public University, Sands Institute, and Western Governors University, for bringing training and certification opportunities at affordable prices to our members. These higher education institutions offer degrees and certification programs with the flexibility of classroom and online study options. Finally, we would like to thank Fortinet for sponsoring coffee this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, the program is about to begin. Please take your seats. As a final note before I begin, FC is grateful to TechNet Augusta's premier sponsor, CDWG. We extend our thanks to CDWG and all of this week's sponsors. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming to the stage Lieutenant General Susan Lawrence, United States Army retired, President and CEO, FCA International.
Good morning. How are you? I'm glad to see everybody here. Our overflow rooms are full because we had some parties going on last night, and so I appreciate your getting up early this morning and being with us. So anyway, I couldn't be more excited to be back here. As you all know, this is my home, and started my career here, and I always love coming home. So it's great to see all of you. And on behalf of TechNet International, we want to thank everybody that's made this possible for us. We're thrilled that this year is our 10th year in person here in Augusta. And our first time we came back in 2013, we had 2,275 registrations. And that was exciting to look at. The only year that we had to do virtual was, of course, the pandemic year in 2020. This year, we are welcoming over 5,500. So we've doubled. And everybody's here to explore the challenges and find solutions for the cyber domain that is our North Star now that we're working on that. And so we're really excited about it. Industry's input to the agenda and being available and the willingness to participate is what makes this event successful for us and all of our events. We just had a record TechNet Cyber as well in Baltimore as we went forward. So as we look at ourselves as the association, professionals in IT, cyber, intelligence, and global security, we want to serve those who serve. I'd like to also offer a special thanks to Reggie Cook, G357, of Training Army Center, Cyber Center of Excellence, as well as Rochelle Thomas, because we don't do this by ourselves. We really appreciate all the support we get. The Academic Outreach Specialist from the Army Cyber Center, Master Sergeant Billy Lout, G35 Plans NCO, Sean Barnes, Director of the Commander's Planning Group, and Lieutenant Colonel Genesis Mumphrey. We thank you all for being great partners with us and working to get all of this set up as we go forward. AFCEA's Augusta chapter is also key to the part of success of this conference. And I did hear from the leadership that next year's golf tournament will start at 8. So for those of you that weathered that storm with us. So a special thank you to our Regional Vice President, Bob Damon, our Chapter President, Eric Gladman, thank you for everything, our Volunteer Coordinator, Amy Tushin, and our past RVP, Pat Harrington, for your support with continuing education. I walked down the hall last night or yesterday afternoon as we were starting our continuing education, and the rooms were packed, so job well done. So at this time, I'd like to ask Augusta Fort Gordon chapter leaders and volunteers to please stand so we can thank you for your great work. And, all right, don't stop being shy, Eric. Where's our guys here? They're probably out there working. Thank you very much. We appreciate your partnership. Also, there are so many volunteers here from AFC International, from Fort Gordon, from all the organizations to put this on, and I really do appreciate our volunteers. We're here this week to discuss the data-centric Army, the United States Army's ambitious data plan, which I was able to hear about yesterday afternoon with General Morrison's meeting that we had. It was fabulous. Thank you, sir. And the data plan that was released last fall, establishing a foundation to enhance decision-making efficiencies and effectiveness at every echelon, and aims to improve interoperability among the sister services with coalition and mission partners. It is going to be so critical to get that done as we move through this data centricity environment with the key long pole, as they say, that we talked about in the data tagging and getting the information to where it needs to be. So industry, we need you to help us work this tough problem as we go forward, because we must make JADC2 a reality sooner than later. And we heard that from some of our commanders in the field. We've really got to work on our ability to talk joint on the battlefield, and we'll continue to work that. And we need to do it so that we have operational advantages over our adversary and our near adversaries as we go forward. So the digital transformation is the whole of Army, with leaders across the service working diligently together in the science and technology. And you're going to hear more about another event that we're going to do in the National Capital Region, focused just on that. And we're going to hear from the principal advisor from the Army ASALT, bringing everybody together in a single foundation and working the data engineering challenges that face us as we go forward. So great agenda this week to go forward. And we just got to make sure we get this right so that we can outmaneuver and win against our adversaries of China, Russia, and North Korea. And we're committed to that challenge and committed to bringing industry, academia, and the government together to take on the transformation of data-centric environment. So as we go forward with this, you've got your app that talks about all the moving parts this week and all the events, the sessions that are going on. So please make sure that you have that. We want to thank CompTIA and GIAC for continuing the professional education credits that our young men and women are getting that are so needed. And as I said, record-setting 32 events this week as we go forward. And also CertNext, CyberSec, first responders are in there as well helping us. We continue to promote and talk about the need for STEM. Again, last year we were able to, between the chapters and the headquarters, we gave out over $2 million in scholarships and teachers' grants. And we get messages back from the teachers' grants, and they send us videos of what these young boys and girls are doing in the school, and it is fascinating. And so we really appreciate that. So we appreciate industry and all your donations there as we go forward. So before I introduce our next speaker, I want to recognize an event can't happen with industry. I'm going to stomp my foot on that one. There's over 250 industry partners here this time. It is great. So thank you for your exhibits. Thank you for your sponsorships, and you make what we do possible as we go through this. And I can't believe it, but I'm going to say it anyway. For those of you that aren't members of AFCEA, come see me. I'll talk to you about the value. And y'all were talking and networking when they announced it, but the AFCEA booth is, anybody hear it? 1, 2, 3. Can't miss it. So we look forward to seeing you down there and joining this great organization as we go forward. And get involved, just not that day-to-day work that you do, but as a volunteer, as a mentor, as a coach, as an advocate for our mission, because we need you. And so with that, turn it back over to the voice.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the singing of the national anthem by Robert George and Catherine Rimby from Augusta University.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming,
Whose broad
stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Please take your seats and welcome to the stage Acting Cyber Center of Excellence Chaplain Jeffrey Dillard to provide the invocation for TechNet.
Good morning.
I invite you to pray with me silently in your tradition or meditate as I pray in mine. I invite you to pray with me. Father, I praise you for this conference. It is a crucial opportunity to network among our civilian industry, military community, and academia. And you have blessed each person here with particular wisdom, passion, and commitment toward those ends of excellent work in the cyber domain. So I ask that you guide each participant as they examine and explore key areas and functions. I ask that you use this conference to create and strengthen lines of communication for effective networking and even better understanding. Be with the leaders and operators as they discuss challenges and potential solutions in these times of uncertain budgets and technological advances. And bless everyone here as they work together to protect this nation, especially for our many godly freedoms. I ask all these things in the name of the one who is faithful and true. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Dillard, for the blessing for this event. We really appreciate it. And let's give our singers another round of applause. Beautiful. And as I noted earlier, it has been our pleasure to be present here at TechNet here in Augusta since 2013. We are grateful for the cooperation and the support of the local community. And I now would like to invite our Augusta Mayor, the Honorable Garnett Johnson, to the stage to give some remarks.
Good morning, TechNet. Good morning. My name is Garnett Johnson, and I have the distinct privilege and high honor of being the 85th mayor for the city of Augusta since January 2023. So this is my first opportunity to welcome you to our great city, one in which I'm a native. In 1736, on the banks of this beautiful Savannah River, Augusta was founded by General James Oglethorpe, Augusta being Georgia's second oldest city, so I welcome you. On behalf of the more than 200,000 residents that call Augusta home, my 10 colleagues on the Augusta-Richmond County Commission, thank you for your investment in this city for 10 years. As I understand, you guys are growing. As a city, we look forward to growing with you. We're excited about this week as you build friendships, as you network, the relationships that you build to help bolster our security for this great nation. I'm excited about the leadership at Fort Gordon, General Stanton, Colonel Reggie Evans. Thank you for your partnership. We hope that you enjoy your week in Augusta and that is a productive one. Should you have any questions for me or my office or anything city-related, please don't hesitate to reach out. We look forward to the continued partnership. We hope you enjoy your stay in this beautiful city. Stay cool. Stay cool. It's going to be a warm one today. But on behalf of my office, it's truly a pleasure to welcome you to Augusta, Georgia. Have a great conference.
Please welcome to the stage Major General Paul Stanton, U.S. Army Commanding General, U.S. Army Cyber Center of Excellence in Fort Gordon.
Y'all can see why I love the mayor, right? What a true partnership that we have between Fort Gordon and the city of Augusta. I'm going to be isolated to the podium. I don't like doing that, but we've handed out all the walking mics to much more professional individuals whom are going to adorn the stage here shortly. Hey, let me just say welcome to Augusta. I'm not sure if the mud is 18 inches deep, but I'm pretty sure that the sun is blazing hot. We didn't set it up that way, but drink water and beat the heat while you're here this week. And this is my third TechNet, which many might argue is the Army's sign of required retraining. I'd like, however, to talk in the context of continuous transformation. We talked about information advantage a couple years ago. We introduced the unified network and our requirement to get it up and moving. General Morrison has led the Army in driving the unified network to fruition. So this week, We get to talk about what does it mean to move the data to the right place at the right time to make better informed decisions faster than the enemy. That's the definition of data-centric. And it applies in both directions. Decisions are relative. We have to speed our own decisions, get the right data to the right place in order to inform the commander. But it works on the other side too. How do we delay the enemy's decision cycle? It's relative. So our ability to influence through cyber activities, through electronic warfare, absolutely central to our ability to fight and win. We have to execute in the context of large-scale operations in multiple domains simultaneously. And when I think about what distinguishes our challenges in the United States Army from those that might otherwise exist in industry, I come down to one simple fact. Our enemy is trying to kill us. Pause for emphasis. Our enemies are trying to kill the United States Army in combat, which means that solutions that may exist otherwise to solve similar problems for industry might need to be adjusted, modified, tweaked, and further integrated with additional solutions to solve our problem. That's what this week is all about. How do we take your insights, your PhD level thinking, and the design of the systems that you have built and work to integrate them such that they're simple, intuitive, resilient capabilities on the battlefield? Simplicity in contact is a design imperative. Soldiers need to be focused on pulling triggers, slewing turrets, making decisions to beat our enemies if we find ourselves in large-scale combat operations. So we, in this room, need to design the right protocols, the right systems that abstract the complexity. We, the practitioners in electronic warfare, signal, and cyber, need to then configure, design, architect according to battlefield geometry and a dynamic and changing fight, such that our users, the MOS agnostic soldiers that are at the forward edge, can turn it on and it works. Interoperable is a minimum standard. It's not good enough. Integrated should be our goal. How does the solution that your company has designed integrate with others in order to make that decision cycle, speed that decision cycle, and keep a solution simple and intuitive for our soldiers? That's what this week's dialogue needs to be focused on. I have all the confidence in the world that the talent in this room will help us think about and drive the right solutions to solve hard problems. We've got a great lineup this week. We're going to close with General Rainey, the Army's Futures Command Commander, who will talk to you about technology and support of warfighting operations. Who better than the commander responsible for driving that future? We're going to start with my commander, two echelons above, General Brito, who has dedicated his time, his effort, and his energy to come talk to us about what it means to develop the right people in our nation's Army. What does it mean to develop our profession in a meaningful way so that we have the right soldiers in uniform to execute our nation's call if and when that call is sounded? So it's my distinct pleasure to introduce to you General Gary Brito, the 18th Commander of Training and Doctrine Command. Sir, thank you for your support.
I guess I'm one of those, what I'll call seasons guys that stole the mic from you, Paul. I hope the chandelier doesn't fall. I'm in trouble then, huh? Hey, team, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. This room is very crowded. I wish you could see it from my end. Distinguished guests, our industry partners, soldiers and civilians that help this Army run, my peers, Honorable Johnson, thank you so much for your hospitality, this great city, and I'll do my very best to stay cool while here in Augusta. And trust me, I felt it when we got off the plane yesterday. But not a stranger to the great state of Georgia as well. I just have 2 slides that I'm going to talk to today. And Paul, thank you so much for your great comments and really a great segue to some of the topics I'm going to talk to. And I cannot hit all the eloquent words that you did, but you did indeed set the stage for what this great conference is going to offer. From looking at some of the pamphlets and walking the hallways, indeed, this conference has the most acronyms that I've ever seen as well, which is a great thing. Hey, Paul, I'm really glad that you mentioned my battle buddy is going to close this conference, General Rainey and I. We work hard to help lead the modernization and the transformation for our Army. And you'll see on our second slide, this is very much a team effort enabled by what you do. But I do want to back up a little bit just for some context. This happens to be, actually it was July 1st, the 50th anniversary of the U.S. Army Training and Doctrine Command. This year is also the 50th anniversary of U.S. Army Forces Command, and as we all know, the 50th anniversary for the all-volunteer force. Now, I am not up here as the chief recruiter of the Army, but I will talk about people a little bit and how our people definitely fit into the context of giving that muscle and that grit for every warfighting function that we have, and give us that overmatch. I'm not talking a fair fight, that overmatch we need to kill the enemy and defend the enemy that Paul Staten talked to so well. And that's really what it's all about in many aspects. Our Army will always continue to deploy, fight, and win, and bring home our sons and daughters. Just as we did 50 years ago when TRADOC came, FORSCOM came, and decades before that, and decades in the future. And loosely speaking, escaping from doctrine just a little bit, of all of our warfighting functions, this one, everything that's in the signal arena, the cyber arena, and largely led by the Cyber Center of Excellence here, is probably one that moves faster than any. In the technological range, the innovation range, and just trying to maintain that overmatch that we have and will continue to keep against our adversaries. You can look at something as simple as our iPhone to see how fast that moves, and obviously, if you flip it, the vulnerabilities that we may have to face and maintain our overmatch with. So I want to back up a little bit. And I was taught as a very young officer, going through some training way back in the day, and actually it wasn't called BOLIC then, the basic course and advanced course and others. Many of you have gone through this as well, to understand the enemy first, our operational environment. I'm not saying this is the Army G2, not saying this is the TRADOC G2, but did have some the opportunity to speak with them to help paint the stage of why we will continue to transform, as Paul said, continue to modernize, and why we will maintain that overmatch that we need. And how at the bottom of all of that, our combat multiplier will be those soldiers and civilians, those warrant officers and others, of course warrant officers are soldiers, that will give us the overmatch we need to continue to fight and win. So a little bit in operational environment. And I just give this as a little bit of context to why we're doing what we're doing now. And I'm just going to walk the stage a little bit. Now, clearly, we have some threats to our homeland, cyber attacks, other attacks, things we just need to maintain. One, the situational awareness of and the visibility of. And the character of war is changing. The nature not so much, but the character of war is changing, and something all of us that need to be continue to be cognizant of. Clearly, we have great partnerships with our allies around the globe. And although it's a big world, it's a small world. When you factor all those things, many of which are in this discipline of cyber and signal as well, that threaten our allied partners and threaten us. It makes the globe much smaller when it comes to the reach back, the reach capability that our adversaries have, our adversaries have against our allies and us also. You can look at any other place in the world that will continue and have threats at this point. There's continual disruptors out there, things we need to be cognizant of, and again, continue to advance our capabilities to defeat. And I won't go into any classified issues as well. Someone mentioned in the opening remarks, but we do have rising peer threats across the globe of which we need to beat. and be ready to defeat them, as mentioned in Paul Staten's opening remarks. Okay, shifting a bit down to the bottom. Tied to our multi-domain operations concept, tied to the JAD2 capabilities that we want, tied to our ability to be a contributing force with the joint force, we need to maintain, and you know this more than I do, overmatch across all the domains that the joint force is going to fight in. Ground, air, space, sea, cyber, the whole bit. Of course, cyber and signal close, unique to the audience we have here, which will also be enabled by what we train our soldiers with and the solutions that our industry partners are going to continue to give us. That is always going to move fast, will continue to move fast, and that character of war will continue to change. And we need to do it jointly. We need to have overmatch. We don't want a fair fight. And I'm confident that the leadership represented in this room, partner with our industries, are going to help us to give us that as well. So I think you can connect all the dots there. To back up a bit, and this is not a secret to anybody or unknown, while our Army, rightly so, was doing the right things, engaged in COIN for about 20 years, our adversaries will continue to look at us, will continue to take advantage of the technological advancements, will continue to acquire capabilities. Some would say took us to school in some aspects. We've done the same with them as well, but with that, we need to continue to transform rapidly at the proper tempo, I won't say speed, continue to modernize as well to give us that overmatch that we do need with our adversaries across all domains, signal and cyber being one of them, of course. So we have the right folks helping us to do that. I'm just setting a little bit of the stage with our adversaries to why we're doing what we do. Let's call it old school paragraph 1 IPB to drive what our Army is doing and what our joint force is doing as well. A little bit on the, I guess on my left, the bottom two squares. Our Army has, or actually our military has faced some recruiting challenges. I tend to operate with rose-colored glasses, and we're going to take this recruiting challenge, and we're doing it now and turning it into an opportunity. Not only in recruiting the best soldiers that we need from all walks of life, regardless of this station, recruiting the best soldiers that we need in the military, training them and retaining them. And you'll see a little bit of that on the second slide. We also clearly know that we have some domestic challenges, tournament opportunities as well, demographic shifts, population shifts. It's 2023, that's okay. And again, we will continue to bring in the very best soldiers that we need, all walks of life, train them, develop them, and retain them. In this field, within the cyber lane and signal lane as well, is probably one of those where we need to invest in the continued training and retention to keep the very best warriors in our great Army. Long and short of it, although the character of war may be changing, as we continue to move in 2030 and beyond, and from an acquisitions lens, I'm sure you'll hear this from others later on, 2030 is next week in many respects. And your United States Army Training Doctrine Command, working with the other commands as well, will help us get there. So, my remarks, tied to General Staten's remarks, kind of paint the picture to why we're doing what we need to do. As we have for many decades, and as our three commands, specifically TRADOC, FORSCOM, AMC, and AFC, will continue to do for our great Army supporting the joint force. Okay, next slide, please. Apologies up front. Because I am the TRADOC commander, I can't help but give a little TRADOC-ese. That's a non-doctrinal word as we go forward. But I do want to stress the partnership with all the armies. I want to try and walk the two priorities here and build some context for what we're doing in this conference. Now, Paul Staten mentioned a term which I thought was quite appropriate, continuous transformation. And supportive of that transformation is a level of modernization when it comes to kit, but also a level of modernization in what we do, our practices to continue to make our United States Army a lethal fighting force. Now, I do want to underscore the importance of, one, our BLUKB, all volunteer Army, and kind of walk that across as I go down. Now, one of our priorities, illustrated by the four blocks, the four graphics on my left-hand side, which happen to match our lines of effort, acquiring the very best people, enlisted and officers as well, and our Army has about 248,000 civilian professionals who need to maintain that capability. training the most lethal soldiers in whatever they're doing, whether it's an infantryman, a cyber warrior, signal officer, a signal soldier, a culinary arts specialist, I don't care, training them on their metal task, more than being just familiar, but being very proficient, basic blocking and tackling when we deliver them to the force. Of course, developing the most professional officers, and warrant officers and others, to lead our Army, and many of you in uniform have been through that level of education, key. Guiding the Army culture, which I would argue starts from day one, when that private gets off the bus and goes to his or her respective basic training on the AIT, and same for the officers in their level of training as well. That Army culture, a war-fighting culture, a professional culture, one of dignity, respect, and cohesion is necessary to enable all that's going to come out of this conference as well, and make sure we're the lethal fighting force that we need to be. And of course, shape the future force, and that is not done in isolation or without our Army partners. And I'm going to use that to segue, the units within the Army, I'm going to use that to segue to the other side of the slide. I purposely used the words of delivering current and future capabilities. And Paul, you are spot on the level of continuing transformation that we need to work on. So our capabilities need to continually be assessed, analyzed, tested, experimented, and made better. So that we have that overmatch, we need it all the time, and just as you said, be able to kill the enemy if need be. And that could be through lethal means, cyber means, what have you. It's not about a fair fight, it's maintaining the overmatch that our Army needs. And our command, working with, I'll draw your attention to the watermarks in the middle, this is very much a team effort. One, working with our industry partners for ideas and solutions and capabilities that can be weaved in to our warfighting proficiency, necessary. The experimentation that we'll do with our industry partners and all the commands mentioned as well in the watermarks so they can be weaved in to give us that overmatch that we need, and just simply learn. And all of that is enabled by the people, who is what I really want to fire you up with today. So, Training and Doctrine Command, working with Army Futures Command, which you'll hear from in the closing. Of course, Material Command and Forces Command will deliver that joint capability that our Army needs, to include the doctrine and all that have come through the school. That is key. Now, throughout this theme of continuous transformation, the organizations that we have will be made better. The organizations that we need will be developed, informed, and manned. Again, common denominator, lethal, well-trained people. In this organization, Fort Gordon, working with our industry partners as well, the Cyber Center of Excellence, specific to you, will help us give that capability that we're going to need. So the doctrine, the organization is nested. The training and leader development in the trade-off hat, I'll tell you, is key. From a warfighting hat is even more key. And everybody in this audience will help us achieve that goal of training our most lethal soldiers in whatever respective skill set that they work in, and developing the leaders, regardless of their rank, to lead those formations, help us make decisions at the speed of time, help senior leaders see the decisions that need to be made, and using the technology, the material, old school word, the kit, enabled by many in this room today, to make us better, to give that overreach, to operate in this big globe, which in many respects could turn small if we don't have those capabilities as well. So the training and leader development everywhere from the private getting off the bus to knowing how to turn on this system, and also represented by a young E4 that I saw about 9 months ago who just blew my socks off with the capability and the know-how that he had, two of them, a private first class and a specialist, and I don't even know what piece of equipment it was I was looking at, Paul, but it was something really cool, really good. CPN in this case, but it worked, and they know how to do it. They knew how to operate it. And they were in the beginning of their AIT. We go back to my key point. That talks about the great soldiers, young men and women we have that make our Army great and make our Army lethal. You can't separate that from our leaders that lead them as well. So the level of investment we put in the training and leader development just simply makes our Army work, and that's why we're great, enabled by all the technology that we have as well. I'm going to link in the bottom two the material, much of which is on the floor. Whether you want to call the big M, literal M, it's connected to all the .lm PF integration that is key to us as the United States Army. And the key words have come out as well. Interoperability is maybe not enough, but what it does do is help us build that capability that we need to link in with the joint force, and again, be that lethal force. So I want to close with a challenge to you. And I'm looking at it through my rose-colored optimistic glasses. And we're going to get this done for our United States Army. It's no secret that our service and others have had a little recruiting challenge. Well, it is a recruiting challenge. We're going to get through this. It has happened before in history. But, as I said up front, as General Staton mentioned, and you may hear this later on, I expect that you'll hear from a battle buddy later in the week. We will always continue to have a great United States Army. Always, we have for the 36 plus years that I've been sitting in, and it's enabled by something like you. Not something, by people like you. As we go into 2030, 2040, we can fast forward that as well because of the continuous transformation mindset, because of the intellectual investments by people like us, because of the relationship with our industry partners, and because of those great young men and women who volunteered to join the United States Army, who are empowered by the training that we give them, the leadership development that we give our leaders, and the technology and the relationships we have with industry, they will be empowered to always kick ass and win. Excuse my language here, don't videotape that, okay? It's probably too late right now. But I'm convinced that we're going to get it done. I am convinced that we're going to get it done. I've seen it as a second lieutenant, and I see it now. So to kind of wrap up, team, the importance of the people that make our United States Army lethal must underscore everything that we do. The importance that this Center of Excellence, Training and Doctrine Command, working with all the other partners at delivering that first layer of bricks in combat readiness is critical. The training that we give our soldiers, our leaders, our civilian professionals, the investment we put in our warrant officers and others to retain that expertise, to retain that commitment to being a U.S. Army soldier that feeds into our ability to have overmatch is critical. If you haven't picked up on it, I'm getting a little motivated here, which is good, because I know what will come out of this TechNet conference, coupled with all the others that our great United States Army does, will give us the overmatch that we need, will allow us to continually transform and be better, will allow us to manage the changes in character of war, and balance it with the nature of war, and be a lethal United States Army. So what I will ask of you is to help us continue to bring in those best soldiers. Train them, whatever capacity that you may have. And I probably am speaking specifically to those in Training and Doctrine Command now. Train those soldiers, deliver those leaders. And more unique to the outcome of this conference and the Center of Excellence that Paul Staton and the Sergeant Major and the team lead, more unique to this is invest in the intellectual capacity that we need to maintain overmatch in this domain, because it fits into others and it helps us be a lethal force against our adversaries. Continue to ask those tough questions. Address the capabilities that we need, some of which the solutions may come from the industry partners here today. And I can apply that to anything that we're going to do. And you will hear more from my battle buddy later in the week on Jim Rainey on the importance of the future modernization and transformation needed that our Army needs to get it done. And I'll go back to where I started. That all starts with the great people that you are going to invest in, both in training development, retention, of the JROTC, cyber pilot, all that stuff. And I'm very confident that the great Army that we've had for many decades, we will continue to have as we roll into 2030 and 2040. So ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for the time to speak to you today. Let's have a great week. Mayor, we're going to stay cool despite what it takes. And thank you for the time to be with you today. God bless you.
So we'll now ask General Brito, Lieutenant Colonel Wendy Tokash and Sergeant Major Joel Zecca to join back on the stage.
Good morning. So one of the best things I get to do as the TRADOC Provost Marshal and the top cop of the organization is to recognize those great military police soldiers that we have out there in our ranks. And today we're here to present the 2022 Brigadier General STEM Award to the best military police detachment in TRADOC. And that's going to be presented to the 35th Military Police Detachment and the 222nd Military Working Dog Detachments. To be the best in TRADOC and in the United States Army Military Police Corps, to be nominated and compete for this award doesn't mean just giving law enforcement to the community. It also means providing that community policing and to protect your Fort Gordon community. And providing that safe and secure environment for the soldiers, the family members, and the greater Augusta community. And that can't happen without strong relationships from the garrison down through the Director of Emergency Services with our fellow detachments, and along with that, our sister agencies in the area and our civil support. So I'm going to turn this over to our Provost Sergeant Major Joel Zecca to say a few words about our team real quick before we present the award.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Hey, what a great day to be an American soldier, right? Cool. Hey, Cyber Center of Excellence. There's something great happening here. Although it is the Cyber Center of Excellence, Mission Command thrives in this organization. I had the opportunity to tour Fort Gordon yesterday and see what our MPs do. And I'll tell you, to our general officers, our command sergeants major, all of our allies and partners, soldiers for life, ladies and gentlemen, you should feel good about this community. This community has the best military police soldiers in all of TRADOC. And that's not just something that happens. That's just not picking someone randomly. That takes a lot of hard work. And that hard work is from these three leaders at the top. But they're allowed to do this because of Mission Command, because of what TRADOC does, what Cyber Center of Excellence does, and what the U.S. Army Garrison does. Those partnerships and trust equals success. And from that success, that's where we get our victory. So I'm truly humbled and proud to be here to talk about this. So as Colonel Tokash said, the 35th MP Detachment and the 222nd MP Detachment Military Working Dog. How awesome is that to just hear those military police names at a Cyber Center of Excellence, right? So when you talk about that, you've got to talk about the people that make up that organization. Captain Wong, the way that you command is awesome. The way that you gave broad guidance to Lieutenant Jordan to be the architect of the STEM packet, to put this together was incredible. And we're going to see her next month while she's at the Captain's Career Course at Fort Leonard Wood. To talk about some of the NCOs that do daily business. Sergeant Jackson, as a specialist, he came here and immediately took over as an armorer and ops sergeant. He's working 1 and 2 levels above. That's the quality of people that we have. And because of his ability to operate, they put him in to become an investigator. Went to investigation school, and now he's leading the investigation section on Fort Gordon. How awesome is that? Talking about our canine section, Sergeant Springer, a young sergeant with the experience to train others and to get after day-to-day business so the plans and ops NCO can step up and be the kennel master, and so the kennel master can go out across TRADOC and certify other dog teams. That's the level of trust and competence that the Fort Gordon military community has. Let's talk about Staff Sergeant Haney, who quickly rose to the rank of Staff Sergeant upon arriving. So good at his job, it was requested by the Directorate of Emergency Services for him to come work at the MP station and help run day-to-day operations. He comes from a Navy family, so I consider that a win that he's a soldier, and he just volunteered to become an Army recruiter. So he's going to get out there, spread excellence, and put some great civilians in boots. I can't wait to see what he does for our Army. The current kennel master, recently promoted to master sergeant, has been selected to go to the U.S. Army MP school and work proponency. That's the level of quality people you have protecting you at Fort Gordon. And I'd just like to close with saying, feel safe, feel confident. You truly have the best MPs in all of TRADOC working for you to protect you. We say victory starts here at TRADOC headquarters. That's our motto. But I tell you, victory starts here at Cyberco with the 35th and the 222nd MP detachment because of what they do. Thank you for your time today. Be all you can be.
We would now like to invite to the stage Captain Wong, commander of the 35th Military Police Detachment, Sergeant First Class Holloway, Detachment Sergeant of the 222nd Military Working Dog Detachment, and Staff Sergeant Emfinger, the 222nd Kennel Master, to receive the Brigadier General David H. Stem Memorial Award, which reads, Brigadier General David H. Stem Memorial Award presented to 35th Military Police Detachment and the 222nd Military Working Dog Detachment, Fort Gordon, Georgia, U.S. Training and Doctrine Command's Outstanding Military Police Unit of 2022. Please welcome General Lawrence back to the stage.
Okay, I was ready to tap dance there. Did you see that? That was good. That was good. What we want to do is thank General Brito for sharing those comments this morning. I'm motivated. I'm ready to get back in uniform. I'm a soldier for life.
I can sign that.
So, okay. To show our appreciation on behalf of AFC International, we're going to make a donation to the Fort Gordon Historical Museum Society on your behalf. So thank you again, sir, for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you.
We have a lot planned for this morning, and we're packing it all in here. So I'm going to move right to our next keynote speaker and the presentation from Lieutenant General John Morrison, the Army's Deputy Chief of Staff, G6. General Morrison is the Principal Advisor to the Army Chief of Staff for all things C5 IT related. And all of us know that he does not like to see his bio read and wants to get on the stage. And he also wants to hear from you. So please get ready to ask your questions. We'll put up on the screen the address for you to send the questions to. So with that, thank you very much. John.
Paul, we can do better with the music, man. That's all I'm going to say. Mr. Mayor, General Lawrence, AFC, man, a ton of family and friends. It is absolutely fantastic for Annie and I to be back here in Augusta to share some time with you this morning. believe it or not, I'm going to throw up a slide. If you can put it up, please. Because I want to talk about this last year. So when I was up on the stage a year ago, I was talking about a year of acceleration. Well, it has been that year, and I'll give a little bit of an update on everything that's been going on. You're going to hook me up with the slide, guys? Well, hey, sir, nobody wants to see the light reflecting off of my head. So, we had a session yesterday with all the centrally selected lieutenant colonels and colonels and a lot of senior leaders from across the signal and cyber branches. And it was a great information sharing event. But one of the things that I got some feedback on was, we've heard a lot of this before. Damn right. Sometimes consistency is a virtue all its own. So 2 years ago, we started really laying in a strategy to get after this unified network based off of zero trust principles. It was just a strategy. Then we built in plans, and we really leveraged what we were doing through the orders process so that we could start gaining momentum. But it was sort of a groundswell. And then something happened last, I don't even remember, Maria, the spring, months all run together. We started these things under the leadership of the Undersecretary of the Army and the Vice Chief of Staff called Network Capability Portfolio Reviews. And what that allowed us to do is take a step back, not look at the resourcing end of it initially, but really just look at all the requirements we had levied on the network, and did we have them synchronized, integrated, and aligned right? And the phrase that came out of all that work was dog's breakfast. We had a network requirement literally for everything, often duplicative, often desynced, and often outdated. And so we saw an opportunity that if we were to really think differently about how we are going to drive on delivering this notion of a unified network based off of zero trust, that we could revolutionize the way that we're delivering it and accelerate it beyond even what we thought we were capable of doing. And so that's driven us to really reform how we've looked at ourselves, and I will leave you with really 4 key tenets of reform that we've worked our way through. So the first one was, how do we actually prioritize and synchronize our requirements and then align resourcing to them? Previously, the CIO and I, with the operational advice from General Barrett, would make recommendations, and then other folks inside the department would determine what was important. And sometimes we competed well, and sometimes we were like really frickin' challenged. That's a technical term. And so this year, different. We were able to, under the great leadership of our new CIO, Leo Garciga, able to sit and really walk through the prioritization of the requirements to build out this unified network, and then align resources to it and make recommendations directly to Army senior leaders. A sea change in the way that we have done business in the past. Almost a thing of, you wanted the responsibility, now you've got it, go build the network that we need. With that, we really got after that dog's breakfast of ununified and desynchronized requirements. And under the great leadership of Paul Stanton and the Cyber Center of Excellence, we are now really coalescing those requirements down from, I think we were up above 70-ish different requirements documents, down into something that we can hand over to the material developers that make sense and don't box us in and allows us to get after this notion of continuous modernization. Because we know in this space, there is no home run. We're going to have to be very iterative in our approach. So unified governance at the DA level, unified requirements that make sense. And then our ASALT teammates have done a great job in bringing the network, various network PMs together. So now you've got one central PO who's going to be responsible for delivering the unified network. Mark, I know that you're very excited about the opportunity. And then, most importantly, so unified governance, unified requirements, now one material developer who's going to help us drive on things. One of the biggest things that you're going to see, and are seeing, even today, is this movement towards the central delivery of services from one network command, and that's Army Cyber. So today, we have 14 different organizations that are providing their own unique network services. By the time we get to 25, that will be reduced to one, possibly two, all being delivered through Army Cyber. And we're already seeing the benefits of that central delivery model, where organizations want to move faster to things like Army 365 and all the great services that are being provided from Army Cyber there, and far more securely. Now, last year I talked to you that this year was going to be a year of really accelerating all the things that we're doing. So last year at this time, if I had said, hey, how many folks are we providing virtualized capabilities from the cloud? The answer would have been 10 or 15. Today, well over 30,000 and accelerating. And quite frankly, I've tapped the brakes a little bit because we want to make sure that we have a good implementation plan across the entire Army instead of it being a free-for-all. Bring your own device. We had talked a little bit about that. Today, almost 25,000 people are able to access securely their network capabilities that they need to conduct business from their personal device. More efficient, more effective, and quite frankly, if you want to reach me on the weekend, call me on my personal device. I don't even worry about carrying two phones anymore. So reliable. You sit there and you think about where we're heading with directory services. Right now, in the Pacific, you can travel anywhere around that AOR and plug into the network. By the end of this calendar year, you'll be able to do it globally, and you'll be able to do it securely. So think about, from an operational perspective, a unit being told to blow out on some EDRI exercise or even a national emergency, and getting to the distant end and immediately being able to plug in. We have been talking about that for years. By the end of this calendar year, on NIPR a reality, by the end of the summer, next summer, on SIPR a reality. But that's this notion of a unified network based off of zero trust principles. And at the strategic and operational levels, that portion of it is very aligned. What's the next hurdle? Now, instead of that horizontal, we are really focusing our efforts on that vertical integration. Hence why our ASALT teammates consolidating all this so that we have synergy not only horizontally, but now vertically across all network material development is absolutely critical. We are working very closely with Jeff Ray and the network cross-functional team to make sure that we are building divisional formations that can rapidly plug in to what we're doing at the strategic and operational levels, and it's seamless. It is unified. I'll give you the perfect example of that. So unified security incident and event monitoring, unified SIEM. A reality today, if you are a tactical formation and you're supporting an operation or an exercise, Army Cyber is able to provide defensive overwatch of that formation. Think what opportunities that provides our Army to place complexity at different levels and take that burden off of the edge. And think of the edge as BCT and below. You now have a regional cyber center that can now tip and cue tactical formations and say something is happening on your network. You need to take these kinds of actions. A 6, who currently in a brigade is trying to be responsible for all that stuff by himself. That's why they all have hairlines like mine now. Thanks for a couple chuckles. I will tell you, it is untenable when you think about a fight that is going to be in our future that is more not COIN and wide area security, but large-scale ground combat operations. We've got to fix the complexity problem. And a ton of work that's going on in that space if you'd like to talk about it. So that's where we are in 23. 24, you will only see that accelerate. We prioritize our efforts by theater, and then we drive on it rapidly globally. And it is happening at a speed that, quite frankly, I think is unprecedented. Now, there are still things that we need to work our way through, and I know Mr. Bang will talk about it a little bit later. We have work to do in the software space. So my comment to industry is, if you're going to bring us something that is tightly coupled to a hardware solution, we're probably not very interested. We need something that is decoupled from hardware so that we can get after data centricity. We need help dealing with the spectrum. At the tactical edge, you will hear a lot about the Army moving towards this notion of sensitive but unclassified encrypted. It's because we have to move away where perishable information is at play from our traditional Type 1 radios, which give off a signature, to something that hides far easier inside the noise floor. But we need industry's help with that. We also need industry's help grading what we're doing from a zero trust perspective and making sure that we are not locking ourselves into something that's going to cause us to do this spin up again in 5-10 years. This notion of iterative modernization should not be lost on anybody in this room. Our domain moves way too fast. Help us set that technical foundation so that we can move, not at the speed of industry. We'll never get there, nor should we. But boy, we sure as hell should be on your coattails. And a lot better than what we're doing today, where we're trying to swing for the fences. And so those would be my 3 asks from our industry teammates. And with that, what I'd really like to do, because the best part of these conferences is getting a dialogue going, is hear what's on y'all's mind. And if there's any questions that I can't answer, there's a whole bunch of experts here at the front row that I am more than happy to throw it over the fence to. So please.
General Morrison, the first question is from Jaspreet Gill. Are you looking to do similar network capability reviews in the future for other modernization areas?
So that's a great question. I wouldn't say that we're going to do those targeted network reviews. I would sit there and say that the network CPR is a process. And so while we started it, and it was a lot of work, I will tell you, and it caused a lot of friction as we were working through some long-standing challenges that were desynced across our great Army. Out of that came some direction from our Undersecretary and our Vice Chief of Staff of here are other targeted things that we need to get done over the course of time. I know you'll hear a lot more about it from Mr. Bang and team later on the software piece. That's a big component of it. There are many other tasks that now we're going to take out of targeted sessions, and we're going to build them into our battle rhythm, and then through the orders process, just keep knocking them down. I am sure other friction points will emerge, and then we'll have to take those decisions back to Army senior leaders to get some direction and ask them to check. But I do want a foot stomp. The network CPR was not a one-shot, one-kill. It is something iterative, and quite frankly, inside my great team, we've actually built combat power around it underneath the leadership of Denise Brown to just constantly be tracking it and providing updates to Army senior leaders. I hope that answered the question.
Next question. When will A365 be available on SIPR?
Well, you're going to hear about that from our great teammate, General Skinner, tomorrow. Army 365 on SIPR, we are not going to do. General Skinner and I have been working very, very hard to push the department so that we would have a single tenant, a single joint tenant on SIPR. This has done an incredible job getting that up. has already started moving people into that environment, and the Army will follow starting in the September timeframe, and we are going to do it at a fairly quick clip with the goal of being done with the transition by the end of the calendar year. Bob, anything you want to add?
What is your plan for interoperability between branches?
This is almost like a tee-up, isn't it? You know, I'll be candid. So General Skinner, can I use your name? I'm going to put words in your mouth, and if you disagree, just contradict me tomorrow. Fair enough? We're scarred by the JRSS adventure, and not in the negative light that I just said it. Is that we didn't seal the deal on how to operate in a completely joint environment where the demarc between roles and responsibilities was different. You know, going back to 2013, you probably heard us talk about it even back then. Where the demarc wasn't some physical box or boxes, it was going to be virtual. And so what is our plan to communicate with the other joint services? We work very hard with DISA to make sure we're aligned to the technical standards that they're putting in so that we only augment those standards, and then we work very, very carefully and closely with our sister services to make sure that we are doing this all in a joint context. We are also, as we start rolling out our initiatives, especially in the zero trust arena, targeting integration with the geographic combatant commands, because we've got to get that friction taken care of as well, and work through the technical details. And what we are really striving to do is not simply figure out what is going to be the interface that allows us to pass some ones and zeros. To get after General Stanton's point, how do we really make this where we're integrating with the sister services and the geographic combatant commands so that we can get after this notion of JADC2? I will be candid, in some regards, it's a little bit of a bottom-up approach right now, but it is something we continue to work with OSD and the joint staff to start trying to really lay out what those standard APIs should be. We don't want standards per se, but so that we get after this notion of integration. I hope that answered the question.
And sir, I'm going to paraphrase this question a little bit for your benefit.
Does that mean you're making it easier?
Take a little bit of emotion out of it, like you like me to. What are you doing to improve the RMF process to increase innovation and agility?
So interesting you say that. So the risk management framework, the way that it started out, it was noble intent, but it devolved back into more of the standard my perspective. This is straight Morrison's perspective. Than to the standard bureaucracy where we were more worried about getting paperwork complete than actually cybersecurity operations. We are working through some amplifying guidance on what we call the Risk Management Framework 2.0 that really reduces that administrative burden and really focuses on the things that we really need technicians to be verifying before we put something on the network. Now, we've been on this journey for a little bit, and I see Nancy Kreidler out in the audience because she started it when she was working inside the SIX. We stalled a little bit. I mean, I'll be very candid. Sometimes when you make a change like that, and it's sort of interesting when you think about it. Hey, we're going to reduce your bureaucratic work burden, but we got some stuff over here that says we should still keep doing all that. We've reduced that component of it. And today, I would tell you fully, correct me if I'm wrong, 70% of our systems now are under this new construct because the goal is to get towards continuous monitoring. Next week, we'll be publishing some amplifying guidance that will go out to the field going, all right, once you get into RMF 2.0, here's the level of controls that you need to maintain over the course of time, significantly reduced. And then here's how you enter into continuous monitoring. Now, we've aligned our AO authorities, authorizing authorities, away from solely system owners to now we're, again, working with the CIO. We now have network authorizing officials that are aligned to the DACO authorities, the Directed Authorities for Cyberspace Operations, that come through U.S. Cyber Command and Army Cyber, so that they are now synchronized. And so now the big idea is do the bureaucracy that you need to so that the network official can make an honest risk assessment to put it on the network or not. Break. Step 2 is, and for you to be on the network continuously monitored, here's what we are now doing for you. Not a system owner trying to figure out how to defend that system. The network authorizing system saying, this is the level of controls that we're putting into that system to give you overwatch. And here's what we owe you if conditions change. Because in the end, RMF was about risk management and getting to cybersecurity operations. And I don't know about anybody in this room, but I'd rather spend our precious tax dollars on not bureaucracy, but actually conducting operations. And that's the big idea that we're driving on. And so I think we're in a good spot. We've got the network authorizing official stuff sort of figured out. System owners are starting to understand it. We'll get this amplifying guidance off. And then Pat Dedham, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we've already started to issue authorities to connect that allow us to get after continuous monitoring. Pretty bold steps, but it took a little while to crack through the bureaucracy. I'll be candid with you, but I think we're trending in a good spot.
Do you see standards emerging for the vendors to build to as we address the challenges of sharing information across disparate mission systems as we approach 2030? So
I know that our ASOL teammates are going to talk a lot about that a little bit later. I'm going to defer that one to them. I will say, be careful with the word standards. You know, there needs to be like standard interfaces. It's sort of like how the internet works. We don't have one standard for everything. It's more about the interfaces and how do we make sure all that works. But I'm going to defer that to Mr. Bang and team. Unless you want to speak it now. Okay.
How are we supporting or enhancing the capability to deliver a tailorable operating picture at the division level through a viable data fabric on a resilient and self-healing network? Specifically, with the distributed C2 footprint of forces in Ukraine, are we drawing any lessons learned on how they see the battlefield?
So we're drawing lessons learned from a variety of places to include what's happening over in Europe right now. I'm going to give you two thoughts, and then Jeff, if you want to amplify on any of it, feel free. So first off, we are really working our way through, as the division is a unit of action, what capabilities, do not think network, what operational capabilities do we need at each echelon to support maneuver? And that is a very different way of thinking than how we've been for the last 20 years in a counterinsurgency fight. Very brigade-centric, brigades tailored to be completely self-contained, and really do wide area security operations, not necessarily large-scale ground combat operations. So that will drive a lot of what this question really gets after is, where does that COP come together, and then how is it distributed? We're working that very, very closely with the system engineers inside C3T, operational engineers from across the operational force, and then, of course, the Cyber Center of Excellence in the Mission Command Center of Excellence and other key players. That's one part of it. Now, through the Army Data Plan, we have been out in Indo-PACOM for 3 months, 4 months, thereabouts. And working very closely with our C3T teammates, USERPAC, and others to really get after, with capabilities that we have in the force today, how do we establish that initial data mesh that allows us to integrate with existing Army systems like Vantage or joint systems like Ivana and some other systems that are out there. I don't want to go through a plethora of different systems that are out there. Pretty promising from what we were able to see. Really focus on building a logistics common operating picture first because we thought, quite frankly, when you think about contested logistics, we thought it was the right focus initially. One other piece that I think that's key to that, this was not just an Army endeavor. We were doing it as a part of a series of joint exercises that were out in Indo-PACOM so that we could really, again, we've got to pressure heat the geographic combatant commands and learn how we interface with them as well. And so I will tell you, a lot of operational business process lessons learned, a lot of technical lessons learned, but in the end, we were able to build out a minimal viable product for a pretty robust theater-level COP that we then started tailoring for First Corps and other subordinate units like AFTSC as they were participating in it. Lessons learned. This notion of DevSecOps, if we only look at it from the technical side, we're going to miss. I will tell you, I think we spent the most time getting the users involved in how to write user stories and clearly articulate what it is that they really want to see, to the point that a couple times we took a step back and just did something, just so we could show them something on a screen that goes, is this sort of kind of what you're looking for? So it's the totality of how you bring together the user, the material developer, and the tester. It's the totality of that that's we have learned is going to be absolutely critical as we move this forward. And quite frankly, we're going to have to focus on the user expressing their needs very, very clearly and concisely. I hope that answered the question, ma'am.
Sir, can you talk a little bit about reducing the security risks for the hybrid workplace, and then how you might repurpose that for your other challenges?
So, two pieces. So first off, as we've worked to satisfy remote work and how we were doing that, I will tell you that we have baked security into everything that we were doing. Quite frankly, since the inception, when the pandemic first started and General Stanton and I were up at Cybercom, even the initial CVR, is that what we called it? Even the initial CVR teams instant, we had a plan for what we were going to do with that when, even though we threw it up in a quick hurry. So I feel very comfortable how we're baking it in. And what we're really seeing is the power of leveraging cloud-enabled capabilities to deliver services. Quite frankly, you'll hear General Ray talk about it later, transport agnostic, secure and unsecure, from the cloud, we're delivering capabilities, regardless of transport, securely. Why? Because we're centralizing the delivery of those services to include the security of it, Army Cyber and NetCom. And the visibility that we're able to see and ingest and then send things back into big data platforms, I would submit to you is quite unprecedented because of this new delivery approach. You're right that we've been able to free up and repurpose resources to get after other long-standing challenges. But again, that was one of the most important outcomes of the network CPR, where we were able to synchronize and integrate requirements, get rid of ones that may have been duplicative, and then focused on this notion of a central delivery of services. Every organization, save one, and they're onboarding right now, are going on to the Army's endpoint security system. Every single organization in the Army, save one, and they're onboarding right now, are on the Army's enterprise endpoint security system. That is completely different than if we had talked to you even 18 months ago. And it's a different way of looking at it, but I will tell you, cybersecurity is baked into everything that we're doing. we have not, and I think this is an important point, we have not slipped away from improving the user experience. We think you can do both. We think efforts like bring your own device and what we're doing with virtualized desktop infrastructure and other things are going to allow us to really get after both. This notion of being more secure, but improving operational capabilities for those that we support.
Sir, you spoke about the iterative process. As we look in the recent past from the Stand Up the Network cross-functional team, Army Futures Command, now you're the G6 and you've been in that seat for a hot minute. What do you see different about IT acquisition agility that has enabled what you've talked about today?
The alignment. That's really what I see. It's the alignment across the Army on those four, well, it's not up there now, but if there were 4 boxes up there on those 4 boxes, the alignment of requirements, the alignment of governance, the alignment of how we're doing the material development and all the great initiatives that are ongoing there, and then the alignment of central delivery of services. And every Army commander is on board. Army Futures Command is on board. I've had the opportunity to brief General Brito as a part of the 4-star conference a couple times. And everybody understands that if we want to have a warfighting network that is resilient, that provides the speed, range, and convergence against a near peer, we've got to do those 4 boxes. And so that is the number one thing that I see different. It's the alignment. And Jeff, I stole your word from yesterday.
Sir, at last year's TechNet, you said the next 12 months would be one of increased cloud migration and uptake. Has that assessment held up, and what examples could you provide?
I'm going to phone a friend. What's the amount of data in Army 365 now? So about 10 petabytes of data. Say that 3 times fast. In Army 365 right now. And I believe the analogy that Pat Denham mentioned at the session yesterday is if you took a hard drive and you stacked that all the way up, it would be taller than the Empire State Building. That is one simple analogy. All the other stuff that I talked about with the Army data plan, all cloud enabled. And I'm sure Mr. Garcia, when he's here tomorrow, will give you even more examples.
And this will be the last question, sir. It's a follow-up to the last one. Is there a plan to converge all mission command data and disparate systems across the DoD into a singular cloud environment to create shared understanding at the Joint Chiefs level? If yes, are the PMs currently developing that?
I have not heard of such an initiative, nor do I think something like that on the surface would work the way that question was just described. You know, if you think about the fight that we'll be going into where the environment is going to be exceedingly contested and congested, we're going to have compute and store at various echelons. And that compute and store has got to include a data component. It's just going to be the way of the world. Sitting there and saying we're going to throw everything into the cloud, and that's how we're going to operate in the future, thinking that we will never be in a DDIL environment is probably not an operationally sound planning assumption. And so I don't foresee, as the question was worded, that scenario playing out. That is one of the things, though, that we are working our way through. So as we move towards DoD Sec, the 365 joint tenant, at the same time, we're going to start building out the enterprise, Army Enterprise Private Cloud out in the Indo-PACOM AOR. And those linkages of how all that's going to work are the technical underpinnings that we're working our way through right now. And so it's that notion of what are those key things that you must maintain control of, and then what can you actually put up in the cloud in case you get disconnected, that we've got to operationally think our way through. But what we can't do is put our operational formations at a disadvantage because we took much needed capability they needed at some echelon inside their formation, take it away, and then when they're disconnected, they literally are disconnected. I hope that answered the question.
That was our final question for General Morrison. Please welcome General Lawrence back to the stage.
Thank you very much.
As I said yesterday, watching our leadership team across the United States Army, it has been absolutely remarkable watching the irreversible momentum you have achieved this year that you talked about last year. It's fun to watch. Thank you very much for your leadership. We really appreciate your supporting us this morning in the kickoff of TechNet, and to show your appreciation, FC will make a donation to the Fort Gordon Historical Museum Society on your behalf. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, to cap all this off, we'll move to important networking activities as we open the exhibit hall. Some great exhibits down there going on. A lot of hard work went in yesterday to get them all set up. During the break, sponsored by Fortinet, we'll have several breakout sessions in addition to the opportunity to network with your fellow attendees and view the technology and display in the exhibit hall. You can see on the screens that we have a very full day today with sessions here at the Marriott and the Georgia Cyber Center. The next session in this ballroom will be the keynote from Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Army for Acquisition Technology and Logistics, Honorable Mr. Bang Young. That will begin sharply at 12:30. Because of that, we're going to go ahead and open up the lunchroom from 11 to 1 in the Reynolds lobby through the back of the exhibit hall downstairs, where you'll find a buffet meal and plenty of seating. Thank you to OCTA for sponsoring today's lunch. You'll also find a great deal of content in the rooms on the Riverwalk hallway in the back, classes, tracks, and much more. Check your app for the information for all these sessions. So again, thank you for attending and being in here, and please join us now for coffee sponsored by Fortinet in the exhibit hall. Thank you.
Thank you for attending this morning's session. Please remember that several of today's breakout sessions have been approved for continuing education. Consult the conference app for the latest list of sessions. As a reminder, documentation of your attendance at these sessions is a benefit of AFCEA membership. If you're not a member, you can sign up for membership at special discounted on-site rate at booth 123.